Welcome race fans to tonight's coverage of Round 8 of Season 2 of the NLRL Sunday League. Live exclusively here only on TRTN. As ever, I am Regan Clark and it is my great pleasure to be coming to you live today from a circuit very near and dear to me, the mighty Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. 3.6 miles and 18 turns of FIA Grade 1, the Silverstone circuit is the epicentre of British motorsport. Not only the home of the British Grand Prix in Formula 1, but being a set piece of many of Britain's national motorsport series, including being the largest event on the British GT Championship calendar, the Silverstone 500, won recently last month by Paradigm Competitions' Dan Harper and Darren Leung, as well as holding rounds in the British Touring Car Championships via the national circuit. Internationally outside of Formula 1, it hosts races for the European Le Mans Series and is the home of the MotoGP British Grand Prix set to kick off later this month. In the past, it has been the home of the FIA World Endurance Championships 4 Hours of Silverstone, of which is speculated to return by the end of the decade, as well as the World Rallycross Championship via the infield Stowe circuit. And all the way back in 2001, it even held rounds of the British Rally Championship during the time of the Super 1600s. It started its life as a Class A airfield and strategic installation of the Royal Air Force. During the Second World War, RAF Silverstone served the war effort as the home base of the Royal Air Force's 17th Operational Training Unit, a company dedicated to the training of pilots of the Vickers Wellington medium long-range attack bomber, nicknamed the Wimpy. The legacy carries on with the Wellington and Hanger Straits, paying homage to its former life as a military installation. After the Second World War, RAF Silverstone would be abandoned, left to become farmland near the village of Silverstone itself. In 1947, it became the site of a growing local tradition amongst petrolheads in the nearby villages, wherein which a group of 12 friends used the abandoned airfield as an impromptu circuit, being nicknamed the Mutton Grand Prix after one such driver accidentally struck and killed a wandering sheep on the airfield, writing off their motor. The plot would be sold to the Royal Automotive Club in 1948, which swiftly used it to host the first British Grand Prix since the end of the Second World War, with races having previously ran at the Brooklands circuit. Not long after did it become the first circuit to hold a Grand Prix under the newly emerging Formula 1 specification. A race car in 1950. The first ever Formula 1 championship race would be won at Silverstone by Giuseppe Farina in the number 2 Alfa Romeo Alfetta 158. Silverstone would swap hands between Brands Hatch and Aintree as the home of the British Grand Prix in Formula 1 over its 75 years on the calendar. Ultimately, it would remain the only capable choice to this day, with Aintree disbanding its F1 ambitions in 1962 and Brands Hatch in 1986. Today, however, it is the host of the Round 8 of the Sunday League here on NLRL as we come to the final few weeks of Season 2. Looking at our championship standings, America's Jason Bush continues to open the gap of his championship lead to Bulgaria's Diman Ivanov. Canada's Christian Lebay, last season's champion, makes third by a 30-point margin. Looking further behind them as we stay on board with Hayden Prodger and the 222 Ferrari, it's Francois Debon in 4th place with 236 points. This is where things continue to close up massively inside our top 10. Wesley Kuiper, a mainstay of both seasons, now in 5th with 228 points. James Mason only 7 points behind in 6th with 221. Prodger, who's on screen at the moment, is joint 7th with Canada's Kevin Quain with 215 points. Behind them is Marian Stoyanov in 9th position, and Axel Cassier in 10th with 180 points. It is looking to be a very exciting round indeed coming into this leg of the championship. And staying on board with Prodger here as we get towards the end of free practice, it is going to be a very, very interesting track to be at. Of course, we're starting out of the Nationals paddock, where the MotoGP British Grand Prix used to start from before, in the last couple of years, moving over to the international pit straight down at the wing, where we can see the number 22 of John Prine at the moment. Now, this is the Hamilton Straight, named in December 2020 after 7-time Formula 1 world champion Lewis Hamilton, of course, after his accomplishments over the course of his long and esteemed career in Formula 1. This opening straight is where we would see 20 drivers go side by side year on year for the British Grand Prix, and it's been consistently so since 1986, every year without failure, even during the time of COVID, where as a matter of fact we ran here twice at both the British Grand Prix and the 70th anniversary Grand Prix of Formula 1. So we see here with John Prine getting almost a practice start in from the Hamilton Straight with the Aston Martin. Now, we have a few extra drivers to talk about here entering the fray at this leg of the championship. One among them is a driver we saw quite a lot of last night in the ending round of the NLRL Console Endurance Series. Of course, that's Archie Bowen, one of the two pairing drivers at the K1 Esports #1 Ford Mustang. He was alongside Toby Cyril in the last round at the Nürburgring. Those two picked up a very healthy top 5 for the K1 Esports team right at the ending round of that championship. Now he makes his debut here in the Sunday League after a long-winded hiatus in the number 36 Ford Mustang. Similar colours and the same driver since last night. Also making their way around the field at the moment. You can see just in the background, creeping around there, one such McLaren. Before we get to them there he is actually alongside another one of our new drivers. That's Michael Rushton and Ethan Oliver, the number 97 and the number 724. Ethan Oliver used to be a part of the mainline K1 Esports team during the time of the GHR XEC. He was in the support drive for that season. Michael Rushton used to be part of K1's ACC Academy team. The two now making their debut here at Silverstone in the Nissan and the McLaren 720S. Interesting fact as well with Rushton in the 97 cars. He goes leading through Brooklands there. That is the third driver this season to have taken to the Nissan GTR. Presently the only one left. The only two to have run it before him was Hayden Prodger and Mike Wade. And we saw exactly how things panned out at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps earlier on this season. And recapping those last few rounds, speaking of, as we stay on board here with Rushton and Oliver towards the end of free practice, our previous winners over the course of this championship, it has been double trouble for the American of Jason Bush. His third career win coming up last Sunday at Imola. He went back-to-back for victories in both Le Castellet and Imola, racking up the silverware and further cementing his chances at a championship here in Season 3. It has also been a real field day for Lexus, as they see one more driver enter for round 8 of the championship as well. Hopefully we'll be able to find them over the course of this session. As you can see as well, all the way back in round 1, it was Melvin Milliston on his second career win since Red Bull Ring last season. Wesley Kuiper picks up his first and only this season, after accounting for over 60% of race wins back in Season 1. Ian Skeen picked up his premier win and the first British driver to win since Hayden Puttock back in round 8 last season. And then we saw the first of 3 for Jason Bush, first in Kyalami. And then D-Man Ivanov would pick up some silverware on his way through the Circuit of the Americas, much to the chagrin of Tyler Vermack, who crossed the line in first, but due to a penalty was dropped down to 5th. And then, of course, the rest is history. It's been back-to-back for the last fortnight between Jason Bush and D-Man Ivanov, clashing heads for it. Oh my word, did you see that off there? It was a bit of a clatter between Rushton, Oliver and Kevin Quain. He was just trying to work his way through here. Now we're coming through, this is Abbey and Farm Curve as we were to start from the Grand Prix paddock. You can see Quain's taking it the long way around. By the time we get out past Farm, you can see he just taps the back end there of Oliver and is sent careening off by the time we've hit Village. So not the best way to start free practice hopes. Of course, these drivers trying to get used to their machines. They've still got a lot to learn here. You can see they are really tiptoeing around the upper edge of performance for these machines, and it's double trouble for contact there. Now this time between the two, Ethan Oliver and Michael Rushton running into trouble there. This is as we were following them down towards Brooklands and Luffield. Just on the exit of Luffield, so it seems, for these two. So better get the trouble through now towards the end of free practice than it would be to pick it up over the course of qualifying. And of course, before we get on towards qualifying, as we take away our graphics here, it wouldn't be possible to bring to you these productions week in, week out were it not for the support of our sponsors over at Malwa Transport Incorporated, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. If you or someone you know are located in Canada and looking for an efficient and professional transportation brokerage service for your business, visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. That's www.malois-transport.ca. We've also seen the Malwa boys around the circuit as well, with the various different exploits of Christian Lebay, Kevin Quain and John Prine as part of the Malwa Motorsports team. They compete in a few different series, but they're our primary sponsors here on the Sunday League and formerly in the Console Endurance Series. Hopefully, we've got a long path ahead of us working with the Malwa Transport team. Just see there, Michael Rushton coming to the side of the road down the hangar straight. We check in then with last week's race winner as it comes to a stop down at Stowe Corner. Now, we are trying to find on board with someone lapping the track. Who better to catch on board than a real whiz in qualifying, and that's Wesley Kuiper. Now, this is as we're getting down towards the start of qualifying. We'll have about, by the looks of it, 20 minutes on the clock here. Just in a moment's time, waiting for these two to come down to the line at the moment. The 666, James Robertson, and the 111 of Wesley Kuiper. And as we get on towards qualifying, we'll be able to discuss balance of performance and qualifying predictions here for Silverstone, because it's looking razor thin inside our top 5. More on that in a few seconds' time here as we're heading around Brooklands into Luffield. We'll also be able to get a full rundown of this track as well, and what a circuit it is, truly. It has a bit of a mixed opinion in GT, but as a track so near and dear to me, I've been with this track for years, and it is really quite something to behold. So 20 minutes on the clock then, qualifying's underway, and already storming his way out of the gates. As you can see, a myriad of cars joining behind him. It is a very lively pit lane, but let's catch on board with the early bird. James Mason first into the fray yet again. Now, he always likes to be out in the open, clean air, always first out the gates. He's got his setup locked in to a T, and as we stay on board with Mason, let's start to discuss the qualifying predictions coming into round 8 of the championship. Jason Bush looks slated for another pole position, but by a narrowing margin, only a 10th and 300th of a 200ths of a second to Wesley Kuiper in second position. Tyler Vermack not too far away either, another 10th and 200ths from Kuiper, meaning we have 3 drivers here, all within the span of about 0.2 of a second. Christian LeBay not too far away either, 158.665 puts him just over half a second away. But inside our top 5, it is all within 1 second. Actually, thereabouts, all within about 3/4 of a second of one another, with Axel Cassier 5th with a 158.735, Hayden Proger 6th with a 158.782, Cheeseman 7th, the 159.1. Kevin Quain predicted at 8th, a 159.467, ahead of Diman Ivanov on a sort of wavering results there for the Bulgarian. Normally up in the big 5, is without a solid result on prediction charts. Now, he can come away from this wowing expectations. He still has a championship to fight for. More on that over the course of this quali session. He's predicted at 9th for the 159.802 in the Aston Martin, and Kyle Jenkins makes another top 10 appearance in quali predictions with a 2:0.145. Looking at balance of performance coming into this round, it's looking particularly grand for the older machines yet again. The Aston Martin V12 Vantage and the Lexus RTF picking up a 40-kilo reduction, the highest we've seen all season for both parties. They'll be on absolutely flying form coming into Silverstone. Mercedes losing 2 kilos. Ford, for the first time this season, going net neutral. They're not gaining or losing any kilos coming into this race. Ferrari gaining 7, Aston Martin's V8 Vantage gaining 9, Porsche gaining 10, BMW gaining 14, which will be much to the chagrin of James Mason, who's just started his qualifying lap times now as he makes his way down through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And McLaren gaining a whopping 17 kilos again. So it's been a bit of a rough last couple of weeks for McLaren. They've really been on the short end of the stick when it comes to the balance of performance, and it's only going to continue to get worse here. So for heavy hitters for McLaren, like, say, for example, Wesley Kuiper, it is going to be meandering results potentially on the horizon for qualifying. Now, 17 minutes left to go. Laps on average in and around the 1:58 to 2 minute mark gives us, if I do my maths correctly here, about 8.5 laps before the end of this session. Flat out for these drivers. So with James Mason first onto the timing charts, as he's currently still running clean, as we make our way onto the start, what it would be normally, of this circuit. Down the Hamilton straight and out of Club Corner we go, down towards Abbey and Farm. Already this incredibly fast opening section that was introduced in 2010 as part of what is now called the Arena section of the track, ditching the old bridge section of the track used up until 2009. Then out through Village, now through the Loop, and down towards Aintree to start one of the 2 in Formula 1 called DRS straights, but this is the first of just 2 normal straights for us GT3 drivers today, as we make our way down the Wellington Straight, of course named after the Vickers Wellington, of which this used to house during the time of the Second World War. Down through Brooklands then into Luffield. This long sweeping right-hander, absolutely crucial as the final corner of any lap time to get this absolutely nailed in and conserve as much momentum as you can to go rocketing through Woodcote Corner. Down the national pit straight then, just after Woodcote. Down across the line, that's your first time on the session charts then, a 1:59.667 by James Mason. Let's pull up the timing charts to our left-hand side. Scott Milbank goes second fastest. Then going across the line was the 666 of James Robertson to start another flying lap. The number 36 of Archie Bowen goes second fastest with Ford. That's pushed down to third with the introduction of Jason Bush going already for the fastest time, a 1:58.410 by the Lexus. Already a very impressive start. Diman Ivanov doesn't waste any time then in qualifying to prove expectations wrong. He's up to second by 0.6 of a second in the Aston Martin. James Mason still holds on to a narrowing third place ahead of Archie Bowen and Scott Milbank. Ethan Oliver crosses the line just a few corners ago to make sixth fastest ahead of Latchok Richard and Michael Rushton. John Prine in ninth and Marian Stoyanov in 10th for the time being. That's our first 10 times on the chart. And let's see where our next ones are coming from. I believe we just saw Wesley Kuiper starting their flying lap. We can see 11 times on the chart now. The introduction of Dave Bond in the 107 BMW puts him 7th fastest. Next across the line was the number 23, Charlie Smith, in 10th position there as he crosses the start-finish line. Behind him was Axel Cassier, the Belgian, just starting his qualifying run. We're also just going to quickly check in to see here Tyler Vermaak, who we were unable to change the number for, as we had quite a few new sign-ups coming into this race. Vermaak in the number 94, it will show on our charts here. It says the number 5. That's our apologies to Vermaak. Down across the line we go. Vermaak goes second fastest by 0.07 of a second. What a way to kick off qualifying. Very, very strong stuff then. The 4:13 next across the line. What's the retaliation looking like for James Mason? Getting across the line. Will it be an improvement for the Brit? Now, we must concede as well. The last time we ran here at Silverstone, it was won by one of their own. Britain's Louis Baptiste won in round 2 last season with McLaren. Are there any hopes residing at the moment that a British driver could win again? Well, at the moment, it rests solely on the shoulders of James Mason. In front of him at the moment is the Bulgarian Diman Ivanov. In front of him, the South African Tyler Vermaak, and then leading this with a brand new fastest lap and by 3 tenths ahead, nearly 4 tenths to the nearest position, is America's Jason Bush. Hayden Prodger now becomes the new hope for the United Kingdom's hope of a back-to-back Silverstone win in the Sunday League, setting the third fastest time by 0.6 of a second. Francois Dubont setting the 5th fastest time then. Was temporarily the 4th fastest, but the introduction of Wesley Kuiper, who goes by 0.04 of a second faster than Hayden Prodger, puts the Dutchman on 3rd position. Right now, it is that story of 2 in qualifying. 0.3 of a second, just under 4 is what separates this driver here, Tyler Vermaak, from pole position. He's on his way down towards Brooklands and Luffield, so what can the 94 do over the course of this race? Over the course of this qualifying, I should say. Going into the race, it's looking to be pretty interesting. There are an equal respect chances for mixed conditions. That could even include quite a bit of rain here. We've seen some incredibly drenched races at this section of the track. Any BTCC fans in chat will no doubt recall last season's Silverstone race that was absolutely caked in rainfall and made for a very entertaining watch. Will we get something like that? We're not entirely sure ourselves coming into the end of qualifying. 12 minutes left to go then. Things already livening up. That gap having dropped now from nearly 4 tenths to just under 3 tenths. Tyler Vermaak slowly raking in time on Jason Bush. The 44 crosses the line. That was Scott Milbank up to 8th. Behind him, the 666 of James Robertson. Now to set a time from 20th. Goes 17th in the BMW. Behind him, the 119 of Christian Lebay from 10th position. Goes 9th ahead of James Mason. Diman Ivanovs behind him goes 2nd ahead of Tyler Vermaak by 0.005 of a second. So already a very exciting start. And we're still just over halfway before the end of qualifying. Let's hope for an even more exciting second half there as things continue to close in on Jason Bush. We're just going to quickly check in with Ethan Oliver. one of the new drivers for today. Number 724 goes 13th fastest. Behind him is John Prine, who right now sits 19th fastest in this session. The 111 crosses the line there. That was Wesley Kuiper, still in the top 5 then, behind Hayden Prodger and ahead of Francois Dubon. See a whole myriad of times coming in as well. Among them, Axel Cassier. In front of him there, Charlie Smith. Smith gains 13th position. Cassier sadly doesn't gain a position on this last qualifying run of his. He's still 8 tenths away from pole, residing in 7th ahead of Milbank and behind Francois Dubont. Checking in then, the 94 is on its way around Luffield. It's Tyler Vermack with Aston Martin. Aston Martin have been long overdue a race win since Bathurst this season at the hands of Ian Skeen. What can Vermack do as he crosses the line? Sadly, not enough over the course of this lap gone. The 413 is next into the fray. Yet again, it's James Mason inside the top 10 with BMW as he makes his way around Luffield down towards Woodcote. Behind him as well at the moment is the 666 of James Robertson. The number 1 of Diman Ivanov runs into a problem down the Wellington straight. Mason up to 8th then, pushes Milbank and LeBay down a position. What can James Robertson do in the sister car then? The 666, almost identical to Mason's BMW there. On his way down towards the line. Goes 15th fastest then. Good qualifying grip by Robertson. It's continual improvement for the 666. We're checking in then with the next 2 cars to the line. It's the number 44, which is next into the fray at the moment, Scott Milbank, and then behind him is Ethan Oliver. So 9th and 14th at stake here. Can Milbank fight back against Mason, and moreover, can Oliver fight back against Smith? You can see with a bit of a stab of oversteer on his way out of Luffield. Just meandering for grip with that McLaren. Milbank crosses the line from 9th position, doesn't gain anything. Oliver up and ahead of both of Bowen and Smith. These 3 are going to be ones to watch here as 3 of our newcomers. We see Charlie Smith joined by Hayden Prodger, giving his fellow Ferrari a little bit of tow down the Wellington straight. I think Prodger is backing off for one more run around the track. Charlie Smith has been on great ambition to try and hunt down Ethan Oliver and Archie Bowen. The 3 of them entering as a trio for this special round of the championship. Smith down towards the line then. Does he get the leg up on his contemporaries? Not this time around. We can see Hayden Prodger behind him maintains 4th position by a slowly widening margin to Tyler Vermack. Diman Ivanov still holds on to 2nd. Jason Bush looks to extend the margins here. Down towards the line goes the American, but not into the 57s this time around. He'll be starting one more flying lap here over the course of the final coming stints. As you can see there, off on the side of the road, that was the, I believe, number 36 there, so it would have been Archie Bowen. Number 19 crosses the line. That was Latchok Richard, maintains 18th position for the time being. Will quickly catch on board with the 94 of Tyler Vermack. Does he set a valid time? Didn't look like it on our telemetry. Only has to find 5,000ths of a second in order to take the front row off of Diman Ivanov and put himself in a very good stead to fight Jason Bush, just like the 2 did back in Le Castellet. The 666 to the line next. It's James Robertson from 17th position. Goes up 16th and ahead of Michael Rushton with Nissan. The 413 crosses the line. James Mason from 8th position. Doesn't gain any ground on Axel Cassier over the course of that last lap gone. Next is Scott Milbank. Behind him at the moment appears to still be Ethan Oliver. In the background there. Milbank to the line, then Oliver. Milbank from 9th, Oliver from 12th. Milbank doesn't gain any ground. Does Ethan Oliver gain any more ground to Kevin Crane and Christian LeBay? Not this time around. Behind them, that was Wesley Kuiper crossing the line and also makes it 3 for 3. No one's gaining any ground here towards the last couple of minutes. It's going to take a real push lap out of these drivers now, as we see Francois Dubon's only 0.05 of a second away from a top 5 start. The Belgian down towards the line also doesn't gain any ground. It's a bit of an impotent stage for a lot of these people at the moment. Just struggling against track limits, pushing and shoving against the white lines of this track. All of them vying for a new lap time. Christian LeBay gets one after this lap just gone, up into 9th and ahead of Scott Milbank. The 33 crosses the line just gone now. Now it's Jason Bush. Also doesn't find his way up into the 57s, but what a remarkable time we're looking at here. A 1:58.092 by the American. That actually, I believe, supersedes the track record on on the official Wikipedia for Silverstone for a GT3 car. So that is remarkably fast performance by Jason Bush. Something to note as well, looking inside of that top 10, Christian LeBay, just like he did back in Imola, has set the world record time for a pit scale BOP'd Aston Martin V12 Vantage coming into this round. So really trying to bring the A game in this machine. And where both, like Jason Bush, he has lost 40 kilos on this car, it seems that the Lexus is able to cope with Silverstone just a touch better than the homegrown machinery at Aston Martin. See, at the moment, D-Man Ivanov starting a new lap. We're going to get on board with the 44 next towards the line. Scott Milbank down through Brooklands and Luffield. 5.5 minutes left to go then here in Silverstone qualifying. Milbank next to the line. Then the 111 of Wesley Kuiper, and behind him Ethan Oliver. Makes 3 McLarens in a row then. Milbank towards the line from 10th. Can he get the leg up on Christian LeBay over the course of this lap? Gone? No, sadly, not this time around. What can Kuiper do over the course of this? Goes second fastest out of the top 5 then into the front row. Goes Wesley Kuiper. Pushes Ivanov down to 3rd, Vermack to 4th, and Prodger to 5th. Ethan Oliver maintains 12th position ahead of Archie Bowen, Dave Bond, and Charlie Smith to the back of the top 15. Next to the line then is the number 23. It was Charlie Smith hunting down Bowen and Oliver from 15th position. Doesn't find any ground on this lap. The 119 goes across the checkered line, not checkered flag just yet. We're not at the end of the session. And only stays in 9th position. We just checked there, the 222. Hayden Prodger up to 3rd ahead of D-Man Ivanov. Gets the front of that second row start, is putting himself ever closer to the chance to be the next British driver to win at Silverstone. It's a very strong qualifying. You can see just how hard he's having to push that Ferrari around this track. We may have to stay on board with him over the course of his last couple of laps here. Just quickly checking to see our next 3 times. The 36 at the moment. If we can find them, unless I'm reading that incorrectly. That was the 36 across the line just gone. That was Archie Bowen. Behind him was the 94 of Tyler Vermack. Goes second fastest by 1/10 of a second. And then the 63 of Axel Cassier crosses the line to start another flying lap. So as we've got about 3 minutes left to go here, let's just stay on board with the next driver to the line here. James Mason in the 413 takes to the checkered line at the end of this qualifying run. No improvement this time around. A 2:01.752 is his last lap, and he's back on the qualifying form. Next to the line looks to be Scott Milbank, but not on an improvement. Let's check in with Wesley Kuiper. The Flying Dutchman, as he has been coined over the course of his career, is 3 tenths down as he makes his way to the start-finish line. Doesn't look to be superseding second place anytime soon as he starts another flying lap. The 22 of John Prine, though, is over half a second on an improvement as he makes his way out of Luffield and down towards Woodcote. Behind him, James Robertson and Michael Rushton. Looking around the field here, we're also just quickly checking in with Christian LeBay. Looks to be on an improvement by a very narrowing 1/10 of a second here, but inside that top 10, every ounce counts towards the line. I sadly wasn't enough for 8th position. This time around, he may have just a few more laps to give. This was the driver we were just briefly watching with, but now we get a much more in-depth view of the drive to be for Hayden Prodger. A new hope then for the United Kingdom's prospects to win at Silverstone yet again after what has been an incredible qualifying session by all of the top 10. Hayden Prodger, we saw on his last run around Maggots, Becketts and Chapel, was absolutely flying, but this time around, the Brit's down 4 tenths of a second. So we'll try and catch on board then. We were unable to give you a comprehensive tour of things. Let's get on board with Tyler Vermack. He stops just after Woodcote. Won't be getting on board with him then. Who can we find? Axel Cassier, as a matter of fact, is heading down towards the line as we speak, on towards the final qualifying laps of today. Let's stay on board with the Belgian if he's willing to give us a run down here through Copse Corner, what is going to be the opening corner of this race. Very infamous site of the 2021 British Grand Prix wipeout between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Now on our way down towards Maggots, Becketts and Chapel, an area so iconic in the world of motorsport it was mimicked by the Circuit of the Americas during its installation in 2012. You stay on board with Cassier, now out of Chapel and down the Hangar Straight. Named, of course, after the former life Silverstone had as an RAF installation. This is where the hangars housing the Vickers Wellington bombers would have been. Now as we make our way down towards Stowe Corner, named after the neighbouring village of Stowe. Cassier, though, calls it quits here at Stowe Corner, so we'll have to find one more driver. Who else can we find here but the number 1 of D-Man Ivanov, now taking us on a tour towards the second half of this track as we exit Stowe Corner and down towards Vale and Club. Of course, the site of the famous, I think it was the 2022 or 22, actually yes, 2022 overtake by Lewis Hamilton against Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez. One of the more iconic moments of the last 5 years of Formula 1 happened at this very section of the track. Down the Hamilton Straight we go then, and over towards Abbey and Farm on what would be the starting corners of the British Grand Prix. Not this time around, though, for our drivers. They'll be starting over at the National. Diving then down towards the heavy braking zone at Village, and it's double trouble in this section of the track as we go from Village straight into the loop in the arena section of Silverstone, newest area of the track to be added. And now taking us down through Aintree, down the Wellington Straight on our way down towards Brooklands, Luffield and Woodcote. Behind him there, Vermack and Quain. Ivanov on his final opportunity to try and lay in an improvement on his time. Here in qualifying, has got 2, make it 3 more corners left to go. It's going to be razor thin for the Bulgarian. What can D-Man Ivanov do as he makes his way to the line, out of Luffield, down towards Woodcote? It's going to narrow down ever so slightly, but he's still only a 10th down on deficit. And we'll have to start from the top 5. The pangs of frustration there for Ivanov at the end of his qualifying run. Let's just quickly check in with the next driver to the line. So it seems it's the 114, Ben Cheeseman, takes a tumble there after Luffield. The number 44 is next to the line. If we just try and scroll on through here, it's the McLaren of Scott Milbank toward the line on a very thin margin to the end of his qualifying session. He'll have to remain in 10th by the end of the session today. One driver we wanted to get a view on board with, and we saw him as he started his lap, it's Hayden Prodger. Can he find the momentum in the next 4 corners to bring himself back into the fight on that front row? Right now, the Brit's down in 4th position behind Ivanov, Kuiper and Bush. Round Luffield we go then. What can Hayden Prodger do in the 222? He was looking very strong in that first half. In his final opportunity to make a mark here at Silverstone, I think it might just leveled out to 4th position for Hayden Prodger as he crosses the line then at the end of quali. He's given it everything he could there, but just not enough for pole position. You can see that whole top 10 just about over a second from each other. That is incredibly narrow, especially looking inside that top 5, all within 0.3 of a second from Bush down to Ivanov. We'll get a full rundown of our grid then in a moment's time. What an end to qualifying that has been. And so, starting off at grid formation for round 8 of the championship. Another pole position by Jason Bush. He'll have Tyler Vermack for company on the front row. Wesley Kuiper in 3rd. Sorry, it was a typo in the end of qualifying. It wasn't Ivanov, it was Vermack. My mistake there, confused one Aston for another. Vermack in 2nd, Kuiper 3rd, Prodger 4th, Ivanov behind him in 5th position. James Mason in 6th, then after a very good qualifying puts himself ahead of Francois Debon. Axel Cassier in 8th, Christian Lebain 9th, and Scott Milbank inside the top 10. Kevin Quain 11th, Archie Bowen 12th, ahead of Ethan Oliver. Dave Bond in 14th, Charlie Smith rounds out the top 15. James Robertson in 16th, Michael Rushton with Nissan makes 17th ahead of Latchlock Richard and John Prine. Rounding out the top 20 is Marian Stoyanov. Kyle Jenkins takes another qualifying sabbatical. Despite being predicted at the top 10, sits another one out. Sin Similar, he makes 21st and ahead of Ben Cheeseman in 22nd. 2 McLarens at the back. 1 McLaren inside the top 3. Wesley Kuiper may have the world on his shoulders yet again. He won already in Donington. Can he go double trouble on British turf here in Season 2? Only time will tell. Before we do get away on our first formation lap for Season 2 round 8, not Season 8. Let's quickly recount the news. Our first bit of news, of course, Lando Norris winning the Miami Sprint race in Formula 1. And in the World Rallying Championship, Hyundai TP Cyril Abiteboul clarifies that despite the imminent proceedings of their World Endurance Programme, the WRC programme for Hyundai is here to stay. They will not be going away anytime soon, amidst fears they could have made an early exit due to their endeavours going into the World Endurance Championship in 2026, I should say. And then Formula E, Sebastian Buemi wins the Monaco E-Prix. A short news session for today as we're but moments away from the formation lap for round 8 of the championship. And now he's done it 2 times in a row, Jason Bush. He's been an incredibly strong driver over the course of this season. And now further etching towards his championship title. We are seeing Bush firing on all 8 cylinders of that Lexus. It has been absolutely ruthless by the American over the course of the last 2 weeks. So let's see what he can do now. Is it going to be a hat-trick by Jason Bush? Or are we about to see a new race winner here? Tyler Vermack is still hunting redemption since the circuit of the Americas a few weeks ago. Wesley Kuiper's hunting his second win and Hayden Proger hunting his first. We just wait to see here. Jason Bush will be momentarily taking us away on the formation lap here at Silverstone. We start down on the national pit straight. And here we go. 22 cars in all, 11 cars either side of it on our way down towards Copse Corner for the start of the formation lap. It is going to be a very interesting race indeed. An hour on the clock for this sprint race. We know that those cars up on the front row, the Aston and the Lexus, can put up with a lot of the punishment Silverstone has to dish out. Vermack looked incredibly strong over the course of quali, especially in those last couple of laps there to get himself up onto the front row. Jason Bush looks almost unstoppable, though, in that Lexus. And we must concede as well, minus 40 kilos has only made him ever stronger. He was not really back against the wall when the balance of performance wasn't heavily on his side over the course of this season. Now it can be even more on his side. Coming into round 8 of the championship, Wesley Kuiper as well. We can see up inside that top 5 now. On his day, he is absolutely ruthless. We've seen his performance firsthand this season at Donington Park of round 2 of the championship, where he took his first win since last season. We have a top 5 filled with ambition and a top 10 even more so. See Hayden Proger swerving down the hangar straight to try and build some heat in those tyres. It's not looking particularly bright and sunny like things were back in Imola. It's definitely going to be a bit of a gloomier race here. It seems almost on brand then for Silverstone. And if you've been to the track, know how unpredictable the weather is here. We're sitting in the basin of quite a wide valley here on the county lines between Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire. Heading out of Stowe, we can see a little bit of a spur off there by Proger, really trying to build the heat and get that Ferrari into peak form. We can see that Bush there holding his brakes on his way down towards Vale and Club Corner, trying to build some core heat through the brake disc onto his tyres. Tech Steph asking, what is the number beside each driver's name? That would be the ping on their accounts, basically. So it's connectivity stuff. We can't turn that off for whatever reason, but it shows the ping on the drivers. Obviously, Jason Bush connecting in from Texas in the United States has got a bit of a higher ping than, say, Hayden Proger. You can see there with a ping of 13 because he's connecting in from the United Kingdom. Our servers are based in the UK. All it is a latency in milliseconds there. I'm pretty sure that's what ping was. We had it explained to us last night in the Console Endurance Series race. It's roughly the latency of connection for our drivers. That's what those numbers represent on the side of their names. As for on the bottom left, obviously, that's just their driver number. Jason Bush running number 33, Tyler Vermack running number 94, and Wesley Kuiper running number 111. So as we make our way out through the loop towards Aintree, it's going to be a very, very dicey race today. The championship still hangs in the balance. Looking at the calendar, we've still got 3 more races. Today being one of them will be at Watkins Glen next Sunday for the penultimate round of the championship in Schuyler County, New York State. And we'll be at the Autodromo Nazionale de Monza for the season finale at the Temple of Speed here for Season 2. But right now, we are but moments away from the start of Round 8 here at the glorious Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. It is a real pleasure to be back here after so long. So down through Brooklands and down towards Luffield we go. 11 cars aside of it on our way to the start of Round 8. It is going to be a very tough one on our way down through Copse and then Maggots, Becketts and Chapel. One that I believe Tyler Vermack Wesley Kuiper and Hayden Prodger will be eager to challenge Jason Bush on the early doors of this, knowing by the time they get to the hangar, it's going to be a tough competition to try and go toe-to-toe with the Lexus's unbridled top end. So as we line up on the slow roll down, 43 miles an hour between our drivers here, 11 aside of it with 22 cars in all on a record high for Season 2 on our way down towards the line here in Silverstone. Round 8's about to kick off. Without further ado, we are green and racing here in Silverstone, and a drive-through penalty for Hayden Prodger for speeding during the starting process has already waylaid the chances for the Brit to take an early doors lead of this race, because he'll be having to consider that move immediately into the pit lane. You can see Ivanov and Cassier side by side already on their way down towards Maggots. We can see Francois Debon was looking to get elbows out on his way down into the opening sector, but it's Bush from Vermaak who goes incredibly wide and has to cut Chapel. So Kuiper looks to take an easy second place there. The Dutchman up a position, but there goes Kuiper. So too goes Ivanov. There was absolute mayhem back the order there through Chapel. We could see plenty of drivers having a shove out of the way there. Francois de Bont's got damage over the nose. Ethan Oliver looks to be gaining a few positions on his way down towards Stowe. What on earth went on there in the starting procedure? You can see right now Tyler Vermaak has an incredibly damaged nose. Him and Diman Ivanov are down at the back of the pack here, down in 22nd and 21st. It's been a disastrous start by Vermaak and Ivanov. As we see here, his sister car, Marian Stoyanov, number 66, ahead of Ivanov, now in 20th position, chasing down Kyle Jenkins. We can see in the background, things are getting dicey on the way down the Hamilton straight. We can see Dave Bond going off the track there into the wall. Trouble there as he collects Stoyanov on his way around as well. It just doesn't keep getting worse here for the Aston Martins. Yellow flags are out there, and Bond is stopped on the other direction of the track. He's back into the pit lane, unsurprisingly so. That was a horrific start. Christian Lebay inside the top 10 at the moment with Aston Martin. Seems to be one of their final remaining hopes here at Silverstone at their home race. Their facility headquarters based just across Dadford Road, on the main road running the spine of Silverstone on the west-hand side. See here side-by-side action, so it seems, between Smith, Rushton and Milbank. Rushton going wide though with the Nissan, nearly collecting Smith on his way to Luffield. Charlie Smith looks to put things nearly side by side with Scott Milbank. Meanwhile, ahead of him, Latchlock Richard and James Robertson side by side for 11th position. Porsche versus BMW on their way down towards Copse Corner. Richard having a slot back in behind Robertson. Right behind him is Scott Milbank and Charlie Smith, both eager to take the position off of him. Further up the order, we can see things start to filter out inside our top 10. Right now, though, we're staying on board with Latchlock Richard, number 19 here, chasing James Robertson, but being chased by Scott Milbank and Charlie Smith, the 44 Lexus and the 23 Ferrari. And it looks like Milbank's going to make it side by side on our way down the hangar straight. Milbank's got slightly better top end in that McLaren than the Porsche he's chasing. Charlie Smith has got free slipstream from the pair of them, trying to surf it through. It's contact between Smith and Richard. Making their way around Stowe Corner. He collects, oh my word, he collects Rushton. It has been absolute mayhem from the word go. Real Dick Van Dyke kind of stuff here, stepping on the pitchfork. Charlie Smith laid that in motion. It's just been a domino effect since Stowe Corner. Richard trying to rejoin the track, clocks Rushton around the back end there in the Nissan. It has been an absolutely disastrous start then for quite a few drivers across the paddock. Michael Rushton won't be too happy with the Porsche in front of him. Looking up the order, though, it's Jason Bush by 1.1 seconds to Wesley Kuiper. Hayden Prodger still in third with that drive-through penalty to serve. James Mason looks to go side by side, so it seems, with Axel Cassier. Let's try and catch on board with those two as Cassier is up on the inside down towards Brooklands, but Mason's going to run it a long way around. Here at Brooklands, makes it to the inside at Luffield. Cassier is going to try and mirror that move back on him by running the long way around town. The Mustang just doesn't have the grip at the apex. He's going to try for a switchback on the BMW. Can he get it nailed in? By the time we get down to Copse Corner, out through Woodcote we go. Axel Cassier firmly in that fight for fourth position. The Belgian is going to have to try something really interesting here if he wants to hold on to that position. He tries to make Mason run the inside there and force him to defend as we head down into Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. There's nowhere Axel Cassier can go right now. The BMW has got him dead to rights inside the top 5. 5 minutes in and already plenty to discuss here at Silverstone. We'll stay on board then with Axel Cassier on his hot pursuit of James Mason for 4th position. You can see in the background there Archie Bowen having to cut the Chapel corner there, taking the inside on his way to the hangar straight. 3 Fords there from 5th down to 7th. It is absolute bedlam here in Silverstone. Right now, we're watching that fight for 4th. Axel Cassier, number 63, chasing James Mason, number 413. 55 minutes in, we can see in the background as well a battle brewing between the 2 Mustangs, the 706 of Kevin Quain against the number 36 of Archie Bowen. Our top 3, though, have filtered into a nice rhythm at the moment. We can see Christian LeBay's up an extra position to 8th. Well, last time we saw him, he was in 9th. In 9th at the moment is newcomer Ethan Oliver. The 114 of Cheeseman with trouble down the hangar straight at the moment. Yellow flags are out for Sector 3 until that is resolved. Our drivers can still keep going here in Sector... that's technically Sector 1. And this is Sector 3. So, real quite a turn on the head there. Back in the green flag conditions as the 114 keeps running. Mason still being chased by Cassier. They look to do it 2 laps in a row. Cassier now trying the long way around, but was it just a little too long-winded for the Belgian? No, it isn't, as he makes it side by side, front to rear, as we go into Luffield. This is fantastic stuff between the BMW and the Ford. On the exit of Luffield, down towards Woodcote. Let's stay on board with Axel Cassier to see how he takes that opening sector then, as we go barreling down the start-finish straight. And down towards Cops Corner. You can see him just wiggling there behind the BMW, trying to get inside Mason's mind. As we see now, taking that drive-through penalty was Hayden Prodger. So we're looking at the fight for a podium here between Mason and Cassier. Behind them now, that is upgraded to the fight of the top 5 between Kevin Quain and Archie Bowen. We'll be keeping an eye on that in the background as we head through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. We're still on board with Axel Cassier here, eyeing up a podium position. Right behind them, there's the 2 Mustangs, Quain v Bowen. We may be having to get a look at that. You can see Bowen is in slipstream range, but so too is the story for Axel Cassier. Just closed out a room there to try and run around the outside, trying to pressure James Mason for position here, but he's been as cool as a cucumber in this race here, struggling to get the words out, but it's been icy cold performance by James Mason to hold his nerve up against Axel Cassier. We see in the background Archie Bowen going side by side with Kevin Quain and up to 5th. In the background there, now you can see Bowen up ahead of Quain. Those 2 are going to keep fighting here. We're trying to sort of mix and match. How exactly do we cover this? Let's just go on to our menus real quick and see firsthand what's going on. Here's Cassier, here's Quain, the 2 fighting duos here in the 2nd and 3rd row of this race. Quain trying for it around the outside on Bowen. Cassier still in pursuit for 3rd position. It has been ice-cold stuff then by James Mason. We can also see up in that front row, Kuiper is closing ground to Jason Bush. So plenty of action inside the top 10. Right now, let's just see where the penny drops in these 2 sets of battles, I should say. See Bowen and Quain. Actually, Quain's being caught up there quite some way by Christian LeBay. Bowen has a bit of a cropper there through Brooklands. Now makes Luffield, and that's just going to keep rippling back there with 1 bad line into Brooklands. Usually comes the 2nd bad line through Luffield. Let's just quickly check in that podium fight for Axel Cassier. Down through Cops, no dice just yet. Bowen still leads the fray here for the back of our top 5 battles. Kevin Quain and Christian LeBay in pursuit. Ethan Oliver inside the top 10 ahead of Charlie Smith and Diman Ivanov. See here, we'll cut away from our graphic just so that we have a little bit more free reign of what we're covering. Cassier having a bit of time scrape away there. Mason's building the gap on him through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. The same cannot be said for Archie Bowen as Kevin Quain, Christian LeBay and approaching Ethan Oliver are all inside the fray. Also looking up in our front row, business as usual. It's Bush from Kuiper, but not by a wide margin at all. The Dutchman chasing down the American. See here, Cassier having to settle into a rhythm. It was a very rambunctious start by the 63. He has done very well there on the opening straight. Now with just 10 minutes into this race, the drivers can settle down just a little bit here but not by too much. That's how you end up in this situation. Bowen had a very ambitious start as well, but he's still got a whole swarm of cars looking to take that position back off of him. First among them is Kevin Quain. The driver he had the position off of through Vale and Club we saw a few laps ago. He's joined by fellow Malwar Racing driver and last season's champion Christian LeBay in the 119. And then not too far away, one of the new drivers for today, Ethan Oliver. Quickly checking back in that fight for third. Cassier still gaining ground, not by enough. We can see, though, things livening up in the battle of Bowen v Quain. Quain's to the inside on Bowen on our way down towards Brooklands. What does Bowen do? He's going to go very long on the brakes, but is that going to be to pay off for him? No, it isn't, because it's double trouble for the Malwar team, up 2 positions. Christian LeBay gets a position up there on Archie Bowen. Both the Malwar cars now working codependently. Quain and LeBay back to back here with fantastic strategy for Malwar. Checking back in with Cassier and Mason. We can see things haven't dissipated at all. 0.1 of a second at the moment between the BMW and the Ford. Jason Bush still leads by about a second to Wesley Kuiper right now as we head down the hangar straight. Let's see what happens here in the battle for third between Axel Cassier and James Mason. The Belgian to the inside then on his way down the hangar straight makes Stowe corner. He's going to have to go very late on the brakes here if he wants to hold the position by the apex. That he does, but Mason takes the long way around. He's got more momentum on the exit, so taking us down to Vale and Club. Mason still ahead now to the inside. Cassier is going to have to try for a switchback. That he does, and does he get through? That he potentially does. It's contact between himself and Mason. This is nail-biting stuff between Mason and Cassier on our way out of Club corner. All in contention for the last of those podium positions. Right now you can still see it's Quain from LeBay and Bowen in the background, but our focus right now is on Cassier v Mason. Cassier finally up ahead on the exit of Farm Corner. Mason back to the inside at Village. And then down towards the loop. What's going to be the retort by Cassier on his way out of the loop, down towards Aintree. He's got the momentum. In towards Aintree we go, and down the Wellington straight. It's going to be side by side again between James Mason and Axel Cassier. This is remarkable stuff here at Silverstone. Down towards Brooklands, it's contact again, and this time Cassier up to third. Mason will not be happy with that one, not one bit. Looking there on that incident, we're going to get on board now with the drivers behind them. Kevin Quain, Christian LeBay and Archie Bowen in the next progressing story. So we can see a little bit of rubbing there on our way down towards Brooklands. I don't believe it was intended out of malice. The drivers were bound to come together at some point. Now we're on board with Kevin Quain and Christian LeBay. They're working together here at the back of the top 5. The Aston and the Mustang trying to build a gap ahead of Archie Bowen and Ethan Oliver. But right now, because of that incident ahead of them, fourth is slowly entering their reach. And for Kevin Quain, he's able to open the taps on that Mustang and is really letting loose here through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Behind him, Christian LeBay shaves a bit of time there. The Aston showing a little bit of age on its way through the more manoeuvrable sections of the track. Now with that monstrously large aero, you would have thought wouldn't be many issues. But you can see that he makes up swaths of time down the back straights here at the hangar straight indeed. So down through Stowe, they're slowly peeling away from Archie Bowen, who now may have Ethan Oliver to deal with as company. Though we will be checking in with Ethan Oliver as he looks to have company of his own, and that in the form of Charlie Smith. Let's try and get on board then. We see here Hayden Prodger, after taking that drive through, is on the warpath. He's already out past Millbank. Robertson is next, then Smith. Smith and Ivanov, though, were side by side just a moment. The Bulgarian up to 9th, Smith down to 10th. Let's see what the going rates are for Charlie Smith, the youngster in the 23, going up against one of the potential champions to be, who has had a horrific start today, looking to make the most of it here in Silverstone. What can Charlie Smith do up against a seasoned podium veteran like D-Man Ivanov? Right now, as you can see, the V8 Vantage just peeling off away from him. Not an awful lot at this time. Hopefully we get to see some more battles out of him very, very soon. We can see as well, Rushton and Richard are in their own little world here. The Porsche versus the Nissan down in 17th position, having a whale of a time on their way down towards the village. See here, Michael Rushton in the 97. Oh, he's going for it on the inside at the loop, but just not enough room at the apex for the Nissan. Checking here with Jason Bush, the race leader then, by 1.3 seconds to Wesley Kuiper. Now, this is a driver you really can't sort of let down your guard against. You can't breathe a sigh of relief at any one point if Kuiper is the next car on that chart for you, because rest assured, whilst you're relaxing, he isn't. Kuiper is a driver that is almost, in his own respects, an unstoppable force of nature, just like Jason Bush in this championship. And now the two titans meet at that front row. And now we potentially see two drivers meet two our new drivers for today, who have really had quite a whale of a time in performances. Archie Bowen and Ethan Oliver on their way down towards Stowe. And it has been a real blinder of a start across that paddock, I must say. And we're just checking around the field here to see where our next fights could be coming from. Of course, one of the major considerations right now is for 7th, Bowen v Oliver. We also have Quain and LeBay, but being teammates at Malwa doesn't necessarily scream that these two are going to get elbows out anywhere near to the same extent as we saw in the Battle of Mason v Cassier. See right now, Quain's just sort of holding short for LeBay, trying to give that extra toe to peel away from the Mustang behind them. Speaking of, Archie Bowen is definitely going to have to start considering his options for defending. In the same stroke, both Ethan Oliver and Archie Bowen are part of the same team. They're both with K1 Esports. I think we've already seen in the practice sessions coming into today that they have that tenacity to want to fight with one another on friendly grounds, knowing neither of them have a real stake in the championship. They may get a lot more elbows out than the two Malwa drivers who have a lot to risk today. LeBay, who's third in the championship, Quain, who's inside that top 10, have got a lot to lose if things go wrong. Checking here, Francois Dubon got caught up in even more trouble today, and just like in Imola and Le Castellet, it's been a series of unfortunate events for the Belgian. He has a remarkable drive on his day, but that was a horrific start for quite a few on their way down through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Very easy for these cars, despite how planted they seem on their day, to run a cropper through this section of the track. Let's just quickly go on board here with Christian LeBay. He's up and ahead of Kevin Quain there, so a little bit of argy-bargy between the two Malwa drivers. Quain actually has to cut through Chapel, so looking with LeBay, he drops behind three drivers, as a matter of fact. D-Man Ivanov is in hot pursuit. Let's get on board with Ivanov. Let's get a look at this then, as right now Ethan Oliver is under siege by D-Man Ivanov. This is in the fight for 7th position. Oliver runs it wide round Stowe. Is he looking for the switchback on the Aston Martin of D-Man Ivanov? It looks very likely so. He's right with the Bulgarian on their way down towards Vale and Club. What can Ethan Oliver do then on his first race in Sunday League to go up against one of its newly forming veterans? Out through Club. He's still with D-Man Ivanov. Ahead of them at the moment is Archie Bowen. Stay on board here, the perspective of the 724. Just over a quarter of an hour into the race, and what a start it has been, rife with battles and controversy. Staying on board with Ethan Oliver. Here is the top 22 cars in this race. We're down to 21 though, sadly. As we see Ivanov now side by side, potentially with Bowen. So we're checking in just then. As we see now away from Ethan Oliver and onto the perspective of Archie Bowen, who's now being forced to defend for his life here for 6th position. As D-Man Ivanov is looking to make light work of him here. The 36 is incredibly vulnerable on his way through Woodcote. This is a remarkable comeback drive by D-Man Ivanov. What can Archie Bowen do to try and squeeze the Aston out of room on his way down towards Copse Corner? Just under 20 minutes in, and things already picking back up where they left off. 3 cars in all in this fight as well. At the back of it, Ethan Oliver. At the front of it, Archie Bowen. In the centre, D-Man Ivanov with Aston Martin. You see as well, Milbank and Robertson looking to make a battle very soon. But let's get on board with D-Man Ivanov. We'll recount the standings in a moment's time. So you can see he is really on a mission today since that start to pick up for the time he's lost out on. And he is not too far away from being back inside the top 5 as well. Only about 4 seconds up the road right now is Christian Lebay. He just lifts off a little bit. He's hoping to try and run the Mustang out of road, but Archie Bowen has got quite a lot of grip in the 36. Ethan Oliver not too far away at all, as it could be trying for something ambitious down into this double hairpin section of the track. Very easy for drivers to stage an offensive for position. Diman Ivanov is trying his luck here for 6th position. Archie Bowen defending him nicely. But now as we head down the hangar straight, he'll be in the slipstream of the Mustang. Now straight line speed, of course, has always been Ford's forte. But with Aston Martin right on their trails here, Diman Ivanov isn't going to be trying anything he knows he can't succeed in. So going side by side down to Brooklands. How does he challenge Archie Bowen for position? Just like that. Into Luffield, side by side with the Brit and up and ahead. As we hit the apex of Luffield, that was textbook by Diman Ivanov. You see Bowen diving for the pit lane then. That gives Ethan Oliver his chance to go up in a 7th and potentially challenge for 6th. See the 94 Tyler Vermack has also run into trouble. That could be the end of the line then for the Aston Martin. But where one Aston falls, another shall rise. And so too is that the case for Diman Ivanov, who has been on an absolute blinder of a comeback drive. Proper stuff there. Grit out of Diman Ivanov. Ethan Oliver on his tail at the moment, 0.5 of a second away. Could even be with him on our way down the hangar straight. Let's see what the McLaren can do. You can see Ivanov already moving to cut the toe off as he angles himself for the racing line down at Stowe. 0.4 of a second. Oliver just too far away to make anything stick. Down at Stowe, be hoping for some trouble on the Aston, but he finds trouble himself on his way through Stowe Corner down towards Vale and Club. We'll catch up with these two in a moment's time. It looks all but secured for Ivanov. As for the sister car, Marian Stoyanov in the 66, slowly being caught up here with nose damage by the Nissan of Michael Rushton. Could be a battle on the horizon for 15th. See at the moment Axel Cassier on his lonesome at the back of the podium then. The Belgian did fight quite hard for that podium, much to the chagrin of James Mason at the contact at this very section of the track. Mind you, I believe it may still be on our replays here. As we see in the last couple of laps, these were the two in question. Axel Cassier and James Mason side by side. And it was just a little bit of wheel rubbing there that forced Mason out wide onto the runoff, and it gave Cassier a much easier run for 3rd position, which the Belgian still holds on to right now. James Mason, you can see, not too far away at all. Last lap was a 2:01.284 up against Christian Lebay. He was 2/10 slower than the Canadian. So Christian Lebay potentially looking for a podium here in Silverstone, but we've just seen an off down through Abbey and Vale. I think it was, yes, it was Latok Richards. So that was a mighty shame for the number 9 team. You can see in the background then we'll be getting on board with Marian Stoyanov, who looks to have to defend from Michael Rushton. Let's get on board with the Nissan. I think we just saw them try for some side-by-side action here down through Brooklands. We caught them just past the apex. Michael Rushton up to 15th then with Nissan. 3rd driver in Sunday League history to pick the Nissan. Right now, it seems to be going pretty well on his first return back to the Sunday League. Last time we saw him was back, I believe, in Season 1 at the very early stages of that then. Now spends most of his time on iRacing. So to see him return back to ACC for the special round does mean a lot here on this grid. Right now, Jason Bush still leads 2 seconds, nearly 3 as a matter of fact, from Wesley Kuiper. The Dutchman still in pursuit, but just as we get towards that halfway mark, things looking slim at his hopes of overtaking Bush on track. We can see in the background is an emerging battle at the moment between Smith and Proger. Let's get a gander at that then. The warring Ferraris. A bit hard to tell who's who with this fight here. The 22 and the 222 and the 23. Identical liveries here, both drivers for K1 Esports, Smith and Proger. The 222 then down towards the loop. 0.9 makes it 1.1 seconds from Charlie Smith. So that redirects any hopes there for Smith to try and fight him back at this area of the track. He'll have to try again over the start of the next lap gone. Michael Rushton now fighting with John Prine, so he made light work of Stoyanov. Now hunts down the Aston Martin of John Prine. Let's stay on board then with Rushton. Seems to be getting his hands full now as he enters the top 15. This is in that fight for 14th position. He's really finding his footing now with the GTR, and just like he's tried in this sector before down at Brooklands, now tries his luck even earlier down at Village and the Loop. He's going to try for a switchback on the Aston Martin of John Prine. He's going to have enough speed though carrying into Aintree. He's going to go side by side and up and ahead. Very well crafted by Michael Rushton. He's found his footing there in that Nissan for this one-off round for him, and that is a mighty return to form then. Took a few laps for things to bed in as they should. Rushton now on fighting form. A little bit of a twitch there on the exit of Brooklands. Now round Luffield though. He's 0.4 of a second ahead of John Prine. Big snap of oversteer by Rushton. Behind him, Prine and De Bont. This could get juicy inside the top 15. John Prine and Francois De Bont are not strangers to their fair share of tough battles. You see Francois De Bont going the long way around. Now, that's a bit cheeky there. You could ascertain that he did go off track and gain an advantage, but De Bont's up and ahead now of Prine. He managed to get that all the way sorted within the track limits down at Maggots. Now, as we exit Chapel, he's got Michael Rushton in his iron sights. Now, this is a very scary sight to see, because Francois De Bont, once he's fired up, is a very, very hard driver to stop. On his way down towards Stoke Corner then, you can see just how much more confidence he's got under braking against Rushton in that Nissan. Down towards Vale and Club. Let's just see where the penny drops then between Michael Rushton and Francois De Bont. The number 4 versus the number 97. It's the first time since round 1 of the championship we've seen a Nissan do anything. So heading down through Club Corner, down the Hamilton Straight towards Abbey and Farm. Looking over that rear spoiler, you can see how much ground the Mustang makes. I think Rushton's going to hold the inside then, down into Village. De Bont trying for a switchback. He's just going to have to try and run it out to the right-hand side of the track here. You see De Bont's carrying plenty of momentum, getting up and over the curbs then. The Nissan trying to hold the Mustang off, trying to clip some of that momentum out of it and push it back towards the Aston Martin, but here is where he's increasingly vulnerable. It's a V6 versus a V8, the VR36 versus the 5.4 litre Voodoo on its way down towards Brooklands. Now makes Luffield. I must say it's commendable the effort here by Rushton to defend in what is a damaged Nissan GTR, a car that's not exactly revered on console for its ability to fight well. Right now he's giving it a very good go in that 97. On his way down towards Cops Corner, we want to turn our gaze away just to see if there are any other battles, and you can absolutely see that there are. Inside that top 10, Ethan Oliver ahead of Kevin Quain and Hayden Prodger makes it a very interesting battle indeed. Just wanting to see what happens here with Rushton and De Bont on their way down through Beckett's, now Chapel. De Bont is definitely eyeing him up now, sizing up the task at hand to get past the 97. I think this is his opportunity now, as best as ever, on the way down the hangar. What can Rushton do to try and hold off De Bont? He's just foot to the floor here, hoping for the best, trying to cut some of the toe off of Francois De Bont, but he's going the long way around. We can see exactly what's happening here in slow motion. He's trying for that switchback round Stowe, and a snap of oversteer is definitely going to confound things in the way of Michael Rushton. We see a drive-through penalty handed out at the moment further up the order. I think that is for Charlie Smith. He'll be fuming at that. Now through Vale and Club though, Rushton still holding the outside on De Bont, is going to try and clip the nose off that Mustang, runs himself out of road. De Bont's potentially up a position here, but we're still side by side on our way down towards Abbey, and Rushton's ahead. Remarkable stuff, but where exactly does the Requiem knell ring for Michael Rushton? I think it might be here, because Francois De Bont's had enough. You can see already running the long way around, gives him the inside line down at the loop. Rushton trying for a switchback then in the Nissan, very nearly gets to it, but the Mustang's got great acceleration on its way towards Aintree, but so too does Rushton. It's still side by side in the fight for 15th. This is remarkable stuff. Charlie Smith's into the pit, so this could be the fight for 14th on the horizon here. Or 13th, I should say. It was the fight for 14th. Now Rushton is technically down to 15th position. De Bont now solidifying the move out through Luffield. He has fought very, very well there, Rushton. But now Devon's out in front. That Mustang is going to let loose. It's going to open the taps. Greater chances are now going, and gone. We'll catch up with them in a moment's time. We want to see what's going on here. Hayden Prodger now up ahead of Ethan Oliver. Caught them just in the nick of time here, right in the heat of battle, on their way down towards Vale and Club. Prodger up to 7th. Oliver still inside the top 10. He wasn't expecting to be there over the course of this race, but after that horrific start, he's been able to surf some of the mayhem to find his way up into a very commendable P8. Now on our way down towards Village. Oliver from Prodger. 0.5 of a second at the moment. Let's see where our next fights are coming from. Looking around here, D-Man Ivanov is closing the gap to Christian Lebay, who in turn is closing the gap to James Mason. And going towards the inside there, Lebay was trying for it. You can see the ambitions by the Canadian in the V12 Vantage. I must say, it is remarkable to see it fight with top-of-the-line machinery like the BMW M4. Right now, this is that fight for 4th position we've been waiting for between these three. Christian Lebay and D-Man Ivanov now charging to the back end of James Mason. What can the 413 do then to hold the line? Now on our way down towards Copse Corner. Lebay's up and ahead into 4th position, but Mason trying for a switchback at Copse Corner. It was but millimetres between himself and the V12 Vantage in front of him. Now on our way towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, you can see D-Man Ivanov just eyeing the pair of them up. It's Lebay from Mason and Ivanov, all fighting for 4th. It is truly, truly remarkable stuff. Out through Chapel we go. The BMW's got good straight line speed, but so too does the V12 Vantage. So it is a crazy train heading down the hangar straight to Stowe. You can see just the slow pull away by the V12. It's a rocket ship down towards Stowe. The V8 Vantage now looking to come and have a go here. 2 generations of Aston Martin up against 1 generation of BMW. Down towards Vale and Club we go. Mason trying to sort of get inside Lebay's head there, trying to coax him to try and defend early on the inside. Lebay's having absolutely none of it. You can see the size difference as well. Just how small the V12 looks up against the BMW and its younger brother, the V8 Vantage. Let's check in with the leading car, though, of these three. Christian Lebay has the world on his shoulders for this fight. The 119 putting up quite some fight here. Proper grip by the Canadian to hold off both Mason and Ivanov. Mason trying for the inside then at the loop. The BMW will have a great getaway. So too will the V12. It's going to be side by side at Aintree. Who comes out ahead? It's James Mason from Christian Lebay. All in the fight for 4th position. They'll be nearly side by side by the time we get down to Brooklands. Now eyeing the inside. The V8 on his tail as well. The V12 down the inside of Brooklands. You can see D-Man Ivanov already reassuming the racing line. He's looking to make this 2 for the price of 1. Lebay's back up into 4th ahead of James Mason. D-Man Ivanov right behind the pair of them here. 3 cars in all for the fight of 4th. Absolutely breathtaking stuff here. What a sight this is to see 2 Astons up against the BMW of James Mason. To see James Mason holding the line so graciously up against the pair of them. All 3 different drivers, 3 different driving styles, 3 different machines in 3 different strengths to this race, giving it absolute cinema. Now leading that charge is the V12 Vantage, though. That minus 40 kilos finally working to Lebay's favour. He was tiptoeing his way, so it seemed, to keep the car in the clear and narrow in qualifying. As we've seen time and time again, Christian Lebay is a man of action. Does not wait for qualifying to dictate where he'll finish. Only where the race will start. Not the kind of driver to sit around and hold position hoping for net neutrals here. Lebay has really shown some grit and force today. So heading down into Vale and Club. He's 0.6 of a second from Mason. So realistically now we're looking more at that fight for 5th in the perspective of James Mason, as he's trying desperately now to hold off D-Man Ivanov. It has been a proper spectacle of racing here at Silverstone. D-Man Ivanov, though, is reeling him in slowly but surely out through Aintree now. He's firmly in the slipstream of Mason's BMW. What does the V8 Vantage do now? He's already been hoodwinked by the V12. Is it double trouble for Aston Martin? It's contact between him and Ivanov. James Mason gets spun out, manages to catch the car on the exit of Brooklands, rejoins and is trying to take that position back off Ivanov. They're side by side as both of them re-enter the track. Hayden Prodger is in the mix here. This is heating up massively. Hayden Prodger now enters the fight against Ivanov and Mason, all in control for the last of those top 5 positions. They are inseparable on their way to Copse Corner. Barely anything between them. Blink and you'll miss it, and blink and you'll miss all 3. On our way down towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Barely anything to separate them here. Dragging each other through the opening set of corners on their way down towards the hangar straight. Mason from Ivanov from Prodger. You see Ethan Oliver in the background there is slowly making up time, but with 24 minutes left to go, will he find himself into this fight for 5th by the end of the race? Ivanov tries for a very ambitious lunge down at Stowe, but can't make it stick. James Mason holds his nerve here. It's been icy cold by the 413 up against every contemporary. It is very hard to rattle this driver, even after the 2 incidents he's been in. First with Cassier being rubbed off the road, and next with that contact between himself and Ivanov. James Mason has not lost his cool one bit today. That BMW really does complement his driving style there, because he is just knuckled down. He's not let the world bother him. He just needs control and stability. And that's what the BMW can give him in spades here. Ivanov's going to try his luck again. Down the Wellington Straight. We're about to go out through Aintree and down the Wellington Straight. Ivanov is super gluing himself to the back of James Mason's BMW. Is it going to be the same time yet again? Ivanov's going to run the long way back onto the racing line to try and go for a very late apex on his way down towards Luffield. But Hayden Prodger has took that and ran with it, putting himself side by side in the background there. Now slots back in behind Ivanov. We're going to have to get a look between these two here as James Mason starts to settle into a rhythm. Let's get on board with Hayden Prodger. He had a solid qualifying session. Maybe not the best of starts with that drive-through penalty, but just like Ivanov in front of him, is making every opportunity count on his way down through Abbey. Not through Abbey, sorry, through Copse. I thought we were on the other end of the track. Out through Copse, now through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Looking on board the dash cam here of the 222 Ferrari, Hayden Prodger is fighting diligently for 6th position in front. Could even make the argument that it's 5th with James Mason not too far away. You can see though he loses swaths of straight line speed on the Aston and the BMW. Those two in a world of their own in this fight for the top 5. Right now Prodger taking things one step at a time. He's already cleared his way up to 7th ahead of Oliver, Quain and Milbank. These are only 2 more hurdles on his way back to the top 5. Had a bit of a rough run on the exit of Club. I think he's just going to let these two boil over again, because just like that last incident that drew him all the way into this fight, the next time these two come together, it'll be for position, much to the benefit of Hayden Prodger. Just biding his time, waiting for these two to do something silly again. With 22 minutes left to go, he's not waiting anymore. That even caught us by surprise. Hayden Prodger up on D-Man Ivanov. That's 1 position. What is he going to try for now? Out through Aintree. That was absolutely diabolical on his way through the loop. There's 1 position. James Mason could be next in the iron sights. Hayden Prodger's going for it. He's not going to wait for an incident at all. In fact, he's even caused one there. Minor contact between himself and Mason, but that's 2 positions for the price of 1. Oh my word, that even caught us by surprise. Admittedly, he wished it wouldn't have went that way with the minor contact between himself and Mason. Mason won't be happy with that at all, but he's got Ethan Oliver for company now in the fight for 7th. That was supposed to be the fight for 6th. Hayden Prodger said, no thanks, I would like 5th. That was brutal. For lack of a better word, that was brutal. Capital B, capital R, brutal. I'm absolutely gobsmacked there. Normally I have something to say about that, but that was genuinely so surprising. That is eerily reminiscent. For those of you, this is a sort of elite wheel knowledge here on TRTN, is if any of you remember the Laguna Seca race in the TRR Sprint Series, back when Carl Bucal used to race, of course, the team principal of K1 Esports. And he had this blindsiding move down into the Andretti hairpin, and even caught me by surprise in my early time as a commentator. That was eerily reminiscent there by Hayden Prodger. That was absolutely feral. Now we're watching with Ethan Oliver. He's got James Mason for company. This is in the fight for 7th position. We're on board then with the 724. On our way down towards the loop, Ethan Oliver trying for the switchback, and he's managed to make it stick. He'll be to the outside as we head through the loop. Can Ethan Oliver submit this move on James Mason? As we can see here, V8 versus inline 6. The BMW's got a lot of grunt here, but the McLaren's got good top end just as much as the BMW, especially so being inside the slipstream down the Wellington straight. Where is Ethan Oliver going? He's trying for all the way around the outside. That is a switchback from miles back. That caught everyone by surprise there. That was almost instant by Ethan Oliver, but sadly didn't do much in the long term to phase James Mason. So let's get a look at the overall standings here whilst we try and collect ourselves after what has been absolute bedlam here in Silverstone. After 40 minutes of racing, Jason Bush leads from Wesley Kuiper. Axel Cassier on the podium with Christian LeBay in 4th. Hayden Prodger inside the top 5 after a blindsider move against both Mason and Ivanov. Ivanov in 6th. Now Mason 7th. We're on board with Ethan Oliver from 8th position, fighting for 7th against James Mason. Kevin Quain in 9th. Looks to be fighting Oliver in a moment's time as well. The Mustang catching up to the pair of them as they head down the hangar straight, rounding out the top 10. Is Scott Milbank. Charlie Smith, having to take a drive-through penalty, is now down to 11th position ahead of Kyle Jenkins and Francois Dubon. Kyle Jenkins, I must say, even having sat out the qualifying session, is on a remarkable comeback drive today. Francois Dubon, same story after a bad start. The Belgian up to 13th, and not too far away, mind you, from Kyle Jenkins. We'll quickly go back on board, though, with James Mason and Ethan Oliver. James Robertson, 14th. Michael Rushton makes the top 15. He's had his own fair share of fights there against John Prine and Marian Stoyanov, namely. We also saw a bit of a skirmish between himself and Francois Dubon, the Belgian, now up the field and quite well away from the Nissan. John Prine in 16th, Marian Stoyanov in 17th, sadly having lost 5 cars over the course of this race. We started with 22, we're down to 17. Silverstone wiped out the prospects for a few drivers, among them Tyler Vermack and Dave Bond. We also saw Latchok Richard as well DNF in this race after a big spin and an incident down at turn, well, it would be feasibly turn 1 on the Grand Prix allow. It's be towards the final couple of corners down at Abbey and Farm, down in Sector 3. Or Sector 2 on this track, technically. Sector 1 on the Grand Prix circuit. Again, not specifics really here. Having a race out of the National Paddock is always going to be a little bit jarring, especially in the modern layout of the track. Right now, though, Ethan Oliver is eerily close to a position change. The Brit eyeing up James Mason, the Battle of Britain, as it were, between BMW and McLaren. You can see up the order as well. Ivanov and Prodger are very close to one another at the moment. We'll be checking in with them in a moment's time, just as we head through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Ethan Oliver, a little bit of a twitch there from the McLaren. A very uneasy drive by a lot of drivers today. Silverstone really seems to be one of those circuits capable of putting these cars in their place. Of course, designed for Formula 1 cars. These cars are a little bit out of their depth, but these have all been carefully considered measures by the Silverstone circuit over the 77 years the track has been around to mould it into the circuit we know today, where it's a almost one-size-fits-all kind of race. And the modus operandi of its design is just these spectacular racing opportunities, and I think we've been given a clear showcase of just how crazy things can get, even in the slightly more mature GT3 cars, over the more sporadic and crazy performances in prototype and open wheel. Going down then into Abbey. front to rear between the BMW and the McLaren. It gets eerily reminiscent of some incidents from a few years back, with cars going front to rear around this track. Ethan Oliver, though, has held his nerve with an iron vice on his way down through the village and now through the loop to claim 7th position, but a big snap of oversteer means he'll drop not only behind Mason, but behind Kevin Quain, who has now caught the pair of them up. Could it be 2 for the price of 1 for the Canadian? Let's get on board with Kevin Quain as we go side by side on our way down the Wellington Straight. Let's get on board with Kevin Quain as we head into Brooklands. Oliver looks to try and fight him back. Mason equally so, trying to defend from an offensive by the Canadian. The 706 Malwar Racing Mustang of Kevin Quain swamped in by the Brits on his way down through Woodcote. Ethan Oliver looks to regain position, then he'll be back where he started, square one, potentially so. It's side by side, he filters back in behind, so he'll lose that position out to Quain for the time being. The Canadian now getting that front row seat to fight for 7th. But what can Ethan Oliver do here in the more cornering intensive section of the track with that big bump over those divots on the inside of the track? Very easy to lose yourself through that section. Kevin Quain knows this all too well. He's keeping a very firm grip on that Mustang. He's got the straight line speed to keep Oliver at arm's length, but with the slipstream slowly drawing the 720S in, things could get dicey on our way down towards Stone. Not this time around, however. I'll be a breath of fresh air, though, for Kevin Quain to not be immediately swamped for position. As I say that, we're going side by side down into Vale and Club, so we have to start defending right about now. On his way down through Vale, Oliver's got him then, dead to rights through Club Corner. So an ambitious try for position there by Kevin Quain, but to no avail. We see Francois Debont here now ahead of Charlie Smith and Kyle Jenkins. Smith gaining some positions in the midst of it there. We're checking in with Proger and Ivanov in the back of the top 5 battle. Proger still holding on diligently against Diman Ivanov. Now this is a very tough customer to go up against. That Aston Martin has been hell-bent on a return to the top 5, and he may just have the opportunity very nearly. Who could forget that incredible lunge earlier by Hayden Proger? He caught Ivanov by surprise there. Sadly, that move ended up with James Mason getting knocked off the track slightly on his way down through Brooklands. A very light tap was just enough to upset the rear end balance on that BMW. It was just a little too fast going through Brooklands for Mason to save it and stay ahead of Proger. I'm sure Proger would have liked things to end a different way without the incident, because now, of course, he's gained himself the attention of the stewards over that. With 13 minutes left to go, though, he's just got to stay in the here and now, worry about the future later. As he heads out through Chapel, right now he's got a very prominent dark blue Aston Martin shaped problem in his rear view mirror, and that's Diman Ivanov in the number 1. Trying to get inside his head, giving him the lights there, trying to distract him on his way down towards an intensive corner like Stowe, where it needs to be a perfect line on his way through, down towards Vale and Club, and that he gets on his way towards Vale. Very, very well crafted at the moment by Hayden Proger, but Diman Ivanov isn't going to let go. He's going to be holding on to Hayden Proger, sticking with him like a bad habit for the next 12.5 minutes. On his way to the checkered flag. Ahead of him there, you can see Christian Lebay makes 4th. Axel Cassier still on a lonely drive, though, in 3rd. I mean, struggling from success with a battle like his at the start. I think in a similar vein to Hayden Proger, he would have preferred things end a different way, where we didn't have that incident between himself and James Mason. Not entirely sure what caused that. You could see the front end of the BMW turn in once it was hit round the back, so I think it was just a pivot. It was a racing incident. They rubbed, and because the back end sits ever so slightly wider on some of these cars, it just pivoted him in, and then the whole bounce just shocked him on the other end of the track. We'll catch up with Proger later. We're seeing here Charlie Smith give a very good go here against Kyle Jenkins. Behind him, James Robertson. And up ahead of the pair of them, Francois Dubon in 11th position. The Mustang slowly forging more and more time away on his pursuit of a potential top 10. He's got 11.5 minutes there to close in on Scott Milbank in 10th position. That's quite a ways up the road for the number 4. We're watching with the number 23 here. Surrounded on all sides by equal competition. Oh my word, what was that? by Charlie Smith. That is just, I'm not really sure what you can say about that. Heading out through Abbey and down towards Farm, then to Village. What was going on there for Charlie Smith? I mean, really, what was he thinking of doing in that instance? He's back with Kyle Jenkins, so clearly he feels remorseful for what on earth he did, but was there even the attempt to hit the brakes? I mean, was the pedal working for him at the time, or did he forget what that did? Nonetheless, Michael Rushton slowly gaining more and more ground because of those two chicanery. Those two chicanery is going to be allowing him plenty more opportunities, especially if they keep spilling over each other like that. Here at the moment we see Michael Rushton greeted by the race leader as he moves to one side here just before Brooklands to let the race leader, Jason Bush, get on through down towards Luffield. 10 minutes left to go then. There's Jason Bush, who has been far and away leading the competition here, now 10.5 seconds to Wesley Kuiper. It looks like a hat-trick on the horizon for the American. Really, who can blame him? He's earned the nickname over the course of this season, the Rocket Man, and with every intent. Why? Because he is absolutely flying at every beck and call here at this stage of the championship. It's been not one, not two, but potentially even three on the trot by the looks of things here. Wesley Kuiper's given it a very, very good go of things, but he just cannot keep pace with that Lexus down the straights. Ethan Oliver, 0.6 of a second away from James Mason at the moment. Kevin Quain still with them. That was a fantastic little jaunt to watch between the three of them. I imagine that could definitely pick up in the next 9.5 minutes of racing. Kyle Jenkins and Charlie Smith still close to one another here in the fight of 13th position. The 23 versus the 113. Jenkins started from the back of the field there and is getting closer and closer to a top 10, especially if things keep erupting as they are inside the top 10 over the course of the next 9 minutes of racing. Right now, though, he's got Charlie Smith for company on his way out of Farm. And again, I think that last incident, now let's just recap what happened on the lap before between Smith and Jenkins. I don't think it was malice at this point. I genuinely just think he doesn't know where the braking line is. You can see those braking boards on the left-hand side that most people use as a reference point are gone. So either knocked away over the course of this race or were never there to begin with, but he just seems to not know where that braking reference is. All these GT3 cars just cannot get the car to bite how he needs it to, going down in the heavy braking zones here, because the Axel Cassier having a little bit of trouble on the inside curb at Farm. You can see manages to get the Mustang slowed down just in time there. The Ferrari has actually got quite solid brakes from what I've been able to see firsthand of the 296 over the last couple of years. That does confuse me a lot. Is it perhaps a setup thing, or is it that reference markers have been knocked down, so he's having to try and forge out the ideal braking line himself, and in doing so was collecting collateral there, much to the chagrin of Kyle Jenkins. Fortunately, that McLaren's still going and still ahead. So at the end of the day, no harm done. Right now, though, we can see this is Christian LeBay in 4th position. We've been watching the fight behind him over the last couple of laps earlier on. That was between Hayden Proger and Diman Ivanov. Right now, things have simmered down a bit between the Brit and the Bulgarian in the battle of that last of the top 5 positions. With 7.5 minutes left to go, it's 0.8 of a second between the Aston and the Ferrari. Charlie Smith, 1.1 seconds from Kyle Jenkins at the moment. That gap's still on the rise between the McLaren and the Ferrari. Something clearly amiss in the number 23. You can see there is damage over the nose now. I think that is going to start slowly but surely affecting him over the course of this race, with that front aero being slightly less efficient on the Ferrari. Oh, that's a big slide by Smith. That just got very, very hairy there for him in the number 23. It was just from the start there with that incident down at Farm. Coming out of Farm corner, you can see already a little bit of rattles there. By that point, the Ferrari's already lost its peak grip, and it's just understeering its way off, hits a bit of the grass, nearly gets sideways, under the braking, nearly gets sideways as well. You can see he's having to just slam the car side to side there, trying to scrub those tyres clean, but is that going to help him by the time he gets down to Brooklands? You can see it's done something for him there, because that's a very solid line. Oh, it's a bit of understeer past the apex. So he's desperately fighting with that machine. A driver who has not been fighting with this machine thus far is Wesley Kuiper, and I imagine that is a breath of fresh air for the Dutchman. He had some real troubles back in Le Castellet getting that car right. For Silverstone, doesn't seem to be an issue that he's under any kind of pressure. He's just got him past the blue flag car of John Prine. Axel Cassier is 7.3 seconds down the field from him, just getting up past the midway now of the Wellington Straight as Kuiper gets to the apex of Luffield. Doesn't have to worry just yet about the Belgian, and with 6 minutes left to go, unlikely that he'll have to by the time he gets to the checkered flag. Ethan Oliver then, still ahead of James Mason, 2.7 seconds at the moment. Kevin Quain closing the gap then. Let's get on board with the Canadian. We just quickly see here Dima Ivanov has reeled it in now half a second to Hayden Prodger to 0.3 of a second. Quickly checking with Kevin Quain on his fight against James Mason. Mason runs it deep into Brooklands, but out through Luffield. Neither of them seem to have premier advantage, whether it's the BMW or the Mustang. Both of them are in en passant on their way towards Woodcote. Quain's got very good straight line speed, but as too does Mason. It's the battle of the rocket ships here between the Ford and the BMW. I don't think Quain's going to be trying to go side by side on his way down through Copse, but he is going to run it deep through Copse corner, and that's going to give a little bit of breathing space there for James Mason. Let's check on board with Diman Ivanov on his way down the hangar straight here on his fight against Hayden Prodger. This is for the last of those top 5 positions. The Bulgarian has been chipping away at the confidence of the Brit here over the course of the last couple of laps. Almost looked like a little bit of contact there, but our camera's not giving us the full show of things on our way down towards Vale and Club Corner. So staying on board for just a moment here with Diman Ivanov, second in the championship by just 11 points here. And having a look at that championship fight, you can see coming into this round, Ivanov 11 points off. Lebay, who's up the road from him at the moment, is only 30 points away. So that gap between second and third set to close down a bit if they finish as they are, with Lebay 2 positions up from Ivanov. Ivanov there floundering through the village. Now through the loop, picks up the pieces there and continues his charge back towards Hayden Prodger. Hayden Prodger now has Christian Lebay in his sights. Could the Brit be eyeing up a top 4 finish? It's absolutely on the table here, as he's only about 9/10 of a second away. So he's beneath that second barrier that constitutes whether or not we consider something a battle here. We'll stay with Diman Ivanov for just a second here on the exit of Luffield. He's got the clear line of sight on 2 of the cars ahead of him now. Hayden Prodger's in equal respects in distance between himself and Ivanov, and himself and Lebay. So equal opportunity on the charts for Prodger. Taking a look around the field. We want to quickly check back in with Kevin Quain. He was trying his luck against James Mason. And now the gap out at 1.5 seconds. We've got about a lap and a half left to go here on the timing charts. About 3 minutes left at Silverstone. It has been a fantastic round from start to finish. Let's get back on board then with Hayden Prodger. We were on board with Ivanov. Now we're on board with Prodger as he finds himself right in the middle. 0.7 of a second away from Lebay, but 0.3 of a second behind him is Diman Ivanov. So Prodger is going to have to sort of bite his lip here and hope that Ivanov doesn't try his luck down at Stowe. He's held that right-hand side of the track, and it's paid dividends there because Ivanov's still behind him, but one more major braking zone coming up here at Vale Club. Ivanov doesn't try for it there either, so Prodger can breathe a sigh of relief for the next couple of corners here with Ivanov still on his tail. He's able to reel in Christian Lebay. That V12, though, is properly on the move. Let's stay on board then. The driver firmly in the middle. We're looking at the battle of 5th at the moment. That is the closer battle, but overall you're looking at that fight for 4th. We'll stay on board though for the battle of 5th. Ivanov taking a very wide line through Farm. Can't connect things up on his way through Village. Can he try and tie everything back together then at the loop? He's definitely giving it a good go. Trying for around the outside there almost on Hayden Prodger. He's done well to defend himself there on his way down towards Aintree, still ahead of Diman Ivanov, but all of this is allowing Lebay that extra space to just get ahead down the Wellington Straight. So down towards Brooklands, Ivanov right behind Proger. Now this is an area where he takes prime advantage of any kind of mistakes off of his contemporaries. It's what netted him so many positions over the course of this race, on top of the ridiculously good pace he's had since the word go, and especially since that incident at the race start. He has been on constant improvement here as we get in amongst the final laps of racing today. Hayden Proger still running in 5th, trying to hold on to 5th by the end of this race. Both of them have redemption drives to serve today. Hayden Proger dealt with a drive-through penalty on the race start. D-Man Ivanov got wiped out through Chapel. Both of them with a point to prove. Whose is heard first, though, as we see as well. Christian Lebay has snuck through the masses on this race. Wasn't the best of qualifying sessions as far as things go for Lebay, but he has made it count where it counts on the race day. The Canadian at the moment in 4th position, just ahead of these two at the moment. Hayden Proger still holding on for dear life of 5th position on our way down to the final laps of racing today. 30 seconds left to go. We may have to get on board with Jason Bush in a moment's time. We may be on to the final lap of racing here in Silverstone. 20 seconds left to go. Where do we put our eyes on here? 20 seconds. We'll quickly cut away from these lot. Let's see if we catch Jason Bush just in the nick of time here. The American looks to make things 3 on the trot, but we'll see exactly if it's one more lap in the bookings for Jason Bush as he goes barreling down towards the line. 4 seconds, 3 seconds left to go, 2 seconds, 1 second left to go. He's got one more lap left to give. Oh my word, that is a very close margin. By 1 second, we've been permitted one more lap of racing by Jason Bush. Thank you very much, says Hayden Proger and Christian Lebay, because they've got a point to prove now in what is emerging to be our last lap, last-ditch effort for a fight of 4th position. And D-Man Ivanov is along for the ride as well. 0.4 of a second on either side of it. Hayden Proger is eyeing up 4th. D-Man Ivanov is eyeing up 4th as well from over the shoulder of Proger as these two, now these 3, go barreling down towards the line. They've got one more lap left in it. Fastest of the 3 was the Ferrari, slap bang in the middle. This is truly, truly remarkable stuff to see from all 3 drivers. Christian Lebay, Hayden Proger and D-Man Ivanov take a bow on what has been a spectacular final battle here at Silverstone. But at the end of the day, we've still one more lap to go and we're only in the opening corners from starting down at the National Pit. So out through Chapel, where does the penny drop in the fight now for 4th? Proger right with Lebay. Lebay has got supreme straight line speed in that V12. He may be down, but he's never out on machinery, because that V12, though, as ancient as it is up against the new gen machinery eyeing him up from over his shoulder, that thing has got a real song to sing, with all 12 cylinders giving him just enough to stay ahead. Down at Vale and Club, it's side by side between Ivanov and Proger. Ivanov to the inside of Proger. It's contact between the pair of them on the final lap. Proger rejoins the track ahead of Ivanov. Now we're looking at the fight for 5th. That's a breath of fresh air for Christian Lebay. He's been able to tow that Aston all the way up to 4th. They may see a top 5 finish for Aston Martin. We'll know in a moment's time, though, because getting on board with Jason Bush, it's a hat-trick by the Rocket Man. The American across the line makes 3 race wins in a row. Can you believe it? Absolute bliss for the number 33. Wesley Kuiper will take 2nd place. Axel Cassier takes 3rd. But let's see, where do we leave this page of the book off? Christian Lebay down through Brooklands. Hayden Proger under siege from D-Man Ivanov. It's all the way down to the checkered flag between these 3. It looks to be 4th position for Christian Lebay. And it looks to be a top 5 redemption drive for Hayden Proger. He has fought diligently for that one, as D-Man Ivanov. What a fight between these 3 as well. They've stolen the show there. Let's not detract from what an accomplishment it has been by Jason Bush. 3 on the trot for the American. Now there's your cars on the podium. Axel Cassier in 3rd. Wesley Kuiper in 2nd. Absolutely supreme drive. You can see there joining them inside the top 4, Christian Lebay, and then Proger in the top 5. What an ensemble we have here to bring us to the end of the line at Silverstone. What a round that has been. I have been waiting for this round for 8 long weeks. 8 weeks worth the wait, I'd say. As that is a spectacular round as well. Ethan Oliver finishes in, I believe, 8th position there. He'll be very happy with that one. We'll get the full rundown on results in a moment's time. But what a race that has been. Plenty of action, plenty of drama. And what a set of fights to the finish line. I don't think anyone in their right mind could have stopped Jason Bush's performance today. Wesley Kuiper gave it a very good go, but you just can't fight with that Lexus. See here, Kyle Jenkins to the line in 13th, started 22nd, a good recovery by Jenkins there, a myriad of DNFs, but at the moment, there is your finishing result. Bush from Kuiper, Cassier, LeBay, Proger, Ivanov, Oliver, Quain, Mason, Milbank, DeBont, Robertson, Jenkins, Rushton, Prine, and Stoyanov. Smith, Richard, Bowen, Vermack, Bond, and Cheeseman, all DNFs sadly in this race after that major incident, and then a few more for good measure over the course of this race. What a performance it has been. To pick a driver of the day here would be a nigh impossible task because most drivers in my right mind have acted as such. What a drive it's been today. Truly and always. That's all from us then on TRTN, and what a way to finish the weekend of broadcasting. It has been a busy one for us this week. We were live on Wednesday for the opening round of VSR Phoenix Season 8. We were live just last night for a long 6-hour stint in the NLRL Console Endurance Series at their final round. And today we have been given a real treat on Sunday to bring us round to the end of the broadcast week. Of course, as ever, it wouldn't be possible to bring to you these broadcasts without the support of our sponsors at Malwar Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwar-transport.ca. That's all from us, though, on TRTN. A very well done from Jason Bush. If you're joining us for the next Sunday League instalment, we'll be at the penultimate round of the championship in Schuyler County, New York State at Watkins Glen International. That's all from us at the moment then on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and take care. Good night.